Councilmember Husnick.
Here.
Councilmember Valento. Here. Councilmember Erickson.
Here.
Councilmember Roberts.
Here.
Mayor Bain.
Here, I'd like to invite everyone to rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. Council, we have an agenda before you this evening. I will entertain a motion to approve or any changes.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second. Okay.
A motion and a second. All those in favor signal by saying aye. Aye. Oppose, and our agenda is approved. Our next item this evening is open forum. Open forum is any interested party's opportunity to address council on any topic of their choice. And do we have anyone signed up? Nobody signed up for open forum tonight and nobody online?
Nope.
All right. With that, we'll move on to our consent agenda. Council for consideration tonight is consent agenda items 6A through 6L. Happy to entertain a motion to approve or any changes to the consent agenda.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to pull item 6D as in Delta. Further consideration.
Excellent. We have, we'll pull item 6D, and I would move that council approve consent agenda items 6A through C and E through L.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oppose, and consent agenda is approved. Moving on to the regular agenda is item 6D, which is the minutes from the April 17th council workshop. And I would move that council approve the minutes from the April 17th council workshop. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye. Abstain.
Oppose, one abstention, and our minutes are approved. Okay, we'll move into our action agenda this evening, starting with item 7A, which is resolution 724-2301, accepting a donation from $420 from multiple donors to the Forest Lake Fire Department and in memoriam, and Chief Newman will take us through this.
Mayor, members of the council, we received a generous donation of $420 in memory of retired Forest Lake firefighter Frank Elmquist. Staff recommendation is to accept this donation with gratitude.
Very nice. I would move that council accept with gratitude the resolution 424-2301, the generous donation of $420 in memory of retired firefighter Frank Elmquist.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose, and our motion's approved. Our next item this evening is another donation, resolution 424-2302, a donation of $650 from Forest Lake Chevrolet Cadillac to the fire department and Chief Newman.
Once again, we received this generous donation of $650 from Forest Lake Chevrolet Cadillac. Staff recommendation is to accept this donation with gratitude.
Thank you so much to them. I would move that council approve resolution 424-2302, donation of $650 from Forest Lake Chevrolet Cadillac to the fire department with gratitude. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oppose, and motion carries. All right, next item 7C, resolution 424-2303, which is the 2023 crack filling and seal coat project award. And Ryan?
Mayor, City Council, within your packet is the bid of results and award recommendation for the 2023 crack filling and seal coat project funded out of 211. The project budget was $200,000. As you can see from the 3 bids that we received, we're under budget, so we'll be able to work with Public Works to add some additional areas if we find that suitable. So tonight, we recommend the City Council by resolution award the project to Pearson Brothers Incorporated in the amount of $167,945 for the 2023 crack filling and seal coat project.
And Ryan, you mentioned the budget was 200,000, is that right?
Correct.
All right. Council, any questions for Ryan on this? Any questions? Open for a motion if anyone's ready.
I was looking for the right words.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution or 04242303, the 2023 crack filling and seal coat project.
Excellent. There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
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 Oppose, and motion carries. All right, our next item this evening is the downtown transient dock purchase. And Dan, I believe you're walking us through this.
I am Mayor, members of council. This was previously discussed during the April 10th meeting. We got feedback to go get quotes and DNR permission for option number 1, which was the more traditional marina with the mainline dock and the slips that were adjacent to it. Staff did reach out, got competitive quotes for it, as well as reached out to the DNR. I'm happy to say that the DNR got back to me and said we do not need any additional permitting for this dock layout. They did review the proposed layout and said we're able to install it without having any additional permit needed. Just again, want to remind council that this is a temporary solution for the transient boat slips in downtown. The plan, in talking with Bruce, would be to combine the transient boat slips with the current Your Boat Club dock that's down there. So we have one dock that's there. That option would require additional DNR review and probably an EAW and additional permitting work. But in the interim, this proposed expansion does not require any permit work. We also solicited quotes. The lowest quote for the project was from Twin Cities Dock and Lift in the amount of $48,321. I also confirmed that the Lake Association is generously donating $15,000 to this project, which brings the total cost for the city of Forest Lake to $33,321. Lead times, we're still looking at approximately 3 to 4 weeks from order placement. So if this was approved, the order would be placed this week. So we're looking at still the possibility of getting this installed before Memorial Day of this year. Is still on the cards, assuming that those delivery dates hold. Staff is recommending approval of the quote from Twin Cities Dock and Lift. And from the funding of this, is recommending utilizing general fund balance to pay for the purchase of the dock. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you have regarding the dock or the proposed funding strategy for it.
Thank you, Dan. Questions for Dan? Item?
No, just a comment. I mean, this is something that we pretty much decided on when we had our workshop, that we were gonna go with the better one, the better dock system, I think. Also, it's a local company too, right?
Correct.
Dan? I mean, so we're doing business right here in our hometown, and that's always a good thing.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank the generous donation of the Forest Lake Association and kind of the partnership in getting us to this point. I know we've talked about a lot of different designs and what's going to work best out there. I think, this type of a configuration I'm in support of, but also if this doesn't work, these are modular components that we can reconfigure into something that does work. I think the headline that we need to just make sure that we are continuing to stay focused on is that we've expanded the dock space significantly, and this has been a high need item. So happy to support it. I'm also happy that we've got the fund balance that can support the difference. So to me, well-timed and something we should consider.
Madam Mayor, I make a motion that we purchase the dock from Twin Cities Dock and Lift, utilizing the general fund to pay for the purchase as presented by Dan, with the contribution from the Forest Lake Association.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, with that, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose, and motion carries. Thank you for being here tonight, gentlemen. All right, we'll move on to 7E, which is the Pelsol, I might be saying that incorrectly, LLC subdivision concept plan review. And Andy, you're walking us through this.
Thank you, Mayor Bay, members of the council. It is Pelsol LLC. Karen, could you pull up my screen, please? They have submitted a 5-lot concept plan for a subdivision on Ingersoll Avenue. Just for frame of reference, that is outside of the 2030 and 2040 MUSA boundaries, so it is permissible to have more of that rural residential development feel. This is the site location of the property, I'm just going to pull up, they're proposing that, as I noted, that 5-lot subdivision. On April 12th, the Planning Commission reviewed this concept plan. As a reminder, concept plans just are an opportunity for the Planning Commission and the City Council to give informal comment back to the developers. There's nothing binding in this, no formal action is needed tonight. As I noticed, it's a rural residential development east of Harrow Avenue. It's almost 60 acres. About half of it, though, is wetland. The property has been delineated before the concept review, which is pretty far in the process. Typically, we don't get this far at concept review. But that was something that we really encouraged the developer to do to really help ensure that they were on the right track for preserving these resources and that we could get the minimum acreage in on each of those 5 lots. So it'll be single-family homes. When it comes to public dedications, right-of-way will be acquired for Harrow Avenue. An additional 33 feet is proposed by the developer, so that would increase the Harrow Avenue right-of-way. Parkland dedication will be contemplated at the time of subdivision review as well. The 2040 comp plan does call for a trail in this location, but based on the grades and the infrastructure in the location, staff believes it would be on the west side of the road, so we wouldn't be seeking any additional right-of-way for trail acquisition through here. Beyond that, the property is really well suited for the development. The developers have gone to great lengths to show us what I would say is a overly detailed concept plan. Planning Commission at their April 12th meeting was very impressed with the level of detail. I would say with this level of detail, they'll probably kind of have a pretty good and efficient review process for that preliminary and final plat. So staff's just here to accept any comments the council may have and convey those to the developer. And otherwise, the next time you'll see this would be at the time of preliminary plat.
Thank you, Abby. Questions for Abby on the concept plan? Is there, is five parcels?
5 parcels, correct.
And there's not an ability to further divide any of those parcels, right? So is that kind of, from a density standpoint, would that be the max, or would there be an opportunity to further divide in that
This
district?
would require a comp plan amendment for further density. So
Okay.
it's outside of the area where urban services are projected to grow through 2040. So what the comp plan contemplates and the zoning code supports is for properties east of Harrow to be of larger acreage, so that maybe someday they could potentially be split if urban services were extended in that area. Given the grades through the property, it's a really nice piece of property, but given the grades, the amount of wetland, it could be tricky getting additional home sites in there. It's not to say that's not impossible, but it probably wouldn't be in this first generation of living on these sites. More than likely, they will retain a rural residential feel for a long time.
I guess the basis of my question was to get around to ask about the condition of and the impact on Ingersoll, that just that street readiness. But on 5 units, I'm not as concerned. It's pretty nominal increase. Other questions, points of feedback? This is kind of just our general opportunity to give a first blush and for the developer to hear other feedback points, things we might have as this project progresses or doesn't progress.
So I attended the planning council meeting, commission meeting last week, and the commission was gushing over this plan. I mean, they used the term of the gold standard of how to come forward with a plat, and so
Right.
the developer did a great job in providing that, and I know this land fairly well, and this is, I think, a great use of that. Larger lots, and it's a beautiful piece of land, and it'll be that way for a long time.
Given the wetland impact, have they started the process with the watershed district? Does that,
They have, and there are actually no wetlands that at this time are being proposed to be impacted.
Okay.
So they've delineated all the wetlands. They're showing areas where they can actually get in. I'll just zoom in a little bit. In between your slopes to get to 1 acre, about acre and a half, building pad sites. So that doesn't necessarily mean that that's exactly where it'll go, but it is actually showing where that home could be located, where you could get a driveway in and a septic and not impact any wetlands. The one area that it starts to get a little tricky, we start to get close to some buffers, just coming into the second to southerly lot, and then again on that most southerly lot. But we are able to get in those acre building sites and septic areas outside of those wetland basins and their required buffers. They have started consultation with the watershed and I believe also the DNR. So.
Usually we have a lot more to say about these, but to
Yeah, it just seemed,
Councilmember Roberts' point, when it's laid out really well, it kind of answers the document answers a lot of questions.
Yeah, this definitely fits the feel of Ingersoll. I live over there, and this is good. It fits the neighborhood feel for sure.
I would certainly support the idea of what they have going here. It just seems like it works well into this parcel, so, you know, it meets all the criteria.
Great, well, I will convey that to the development team, the landowners, and I'm sure you'll probably see them back fairly soon with plats.
That was
official
gonna be my
plats.
question, is what is their timeline?
I'm not too sure. It's kind of one of those things that sometimes we know and sometimes we don't.
Understood.
I have a feeling it'll move fairly quickly now that the concept plan is done. Generally, it just is kind of waiting on some of those other reviews to run concurrently with the cities. But I would say within the next 60 to 90 days, we'll probably be done with this plating process.
Very good. Council, any other points of feedback or questions?
And you're not looking for any kind of approval
No.
or anything tonight, right?
No,
Okay.
just that general feedback is enough. I think it's pretty consistent with the planning commission, and I'll convey your words to the development team.
Very good. Council, that brings us to the end of our planned action agenda for this evening. We do have a workshop discussion, and we'll move into that topic now. Just a quick note that this is a workshop session. Anything that we discuss that requires official action will come back before council in a future meeting. So welcome, just an open discussion. Dave, I believe you are kicking us off on one of our favorite topics of the weed harvester. Did you find a crystal ball to tell you this is the path that we should follow?
No, it's basically, put it on discussion just so we didn't kind of forget about it. It's been a couple months now. I sent out a bunch of information and just kind of touching base back to see if any of you have any questions or thoughts or somewhat of a direction, you know? So we're getting to that time of the year where we should probably start looking for operators if we're gonna do it
Right.
this summer, so.
Have you had an opportunity to hear, do you have a recommendation for us? Or have you heard recommendations from Lake Association or other interested parties that would kind of help us to inform this decision?
So kind of like last time, we're stuck in the middle. The Lake Association would like us to cut. The watershed aren't big fans of mechanical weed harvesting, and then we're the third vote.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, there's three choices: to not do it, to do it like we've always done it, or some kind of a hybrid where you do channels in certain areas, or, you know, like a big navigational issue somewhere that you go and clear out. So we can, Public Works can make any of the three work, so it's more or less just a direction of which way we get
And
directed to go.
just to support the discussion, the estimated budget impact of proceeding with it is about what per year?
It was about between $25,000 and $30,000, somewhere right around in there.
If we were to not-
Staffing's about half of that, and then the rest is fuel and maintenance.
Right.
So.
Thoughts, feedback?
You mentioned the watershed district and the Lake Association. What about the DNR? There's always plenty of people to get involved.
The DNR is what permits us, so the Lake Association gets the permit, and they tell us where we can cut and how much we can cut and all that. So, I mean, for what we do, they permit us to do that, so they're aware of the cutting and allow that to happen. And the watershed is just against cutting vegetation out of a lake, that's why even in our agreement, they won't fund any of the weed harvesting activities.
Are they afraid of spreading something, or what do you know?
The
or-
watershed, I think it's just keeping a natural lake. It's,
Oh.
you're cutting something in the lake.
Yeah, because you're not cutting milfoil or anything like that.
No, and Jerry with the watershed, they do that permitting and they know where all the AIS is, the, invasive species, so we cut everywhere but there.
So I think, if the Lakes Association's in support of it, I think we should, but don't think we should limit ourselves just to channels and navigational in case there is an issue somewhere else that we need to attack. Sometimes there's weeds that just come up, and so I wouldn't want to limit ourselves to just a certain navigational or certain areas.
I would agree. If we're going to have a weed cutting program, let's have a weed cutting program that makes sense and isn't like red taped by limitations. So if we're gonna do it, I say let's do it and have a full program.
I think it's been a fairly popular thing too with,
Yeah, I mean, that's my hesitation. I'm still not 100% convinced on the overall effectiveness and that it's the best solution, but it is the solution we have. And my hesitation on just not doing it is severely limiting the navigation and enjoying of one of our most popular recreational amenities. And yes, $22,000 is not inexpensive. However, it's also for the number of people impacted and the number of hours of enjoyment that it provides. To me, it's money well spent. And I guess, in absence, if there were some strong reason of why we absolutely should stop doing this practice, I'm open to hearing that, but those reasons just don't come. It seems to be more of a, does it help? And I think at the end of the day, there's some benefit to it that allow us for more enjoyment of an amenity that many, many people of our, many of our residents and visitors use, and it's an attraction. I wouldn't want, I think there's a little bit of protecting our reputation at risk, and that I wouldn't want us to stop investing in that and, get the reputation that we've just stopped caring about our lake, and that's just not the case, so.
yeah, personally, I would support moving ahead with what we've been doing so far until we come up with a better solution, so
Same.
it's a lot of weeds.
I think it's it's the, part of it's just the beast of the nature of this type of lake, right? We live on this shallow lake that this is it's
Plenty of nutrients
It's not
and-
deep, and,
yeah.
it's part of just supporting that lake as it is and trying to support as much, recreation as we can on it. I don't know, other perspectives, thoughts?
I think you summed it up well.
Dave, that might be as strong of a position as we get.
Pretty good.
It's kind of an aw shucks, I think we should. I do need to recognize, we get phone calls and emails of residents that absolutely can't stand this practice, that, they feel that it causes weeds to wash up, and I think that, yes, but I think that that's part of just living on the lake, frankly, so.
Yep, that's completely fine. It's just, that's why I wanted to bring this back to make sure I had some time, because it's not an easy job to fill, so. If you have any neighbors that want to drive a big green weed harvester around the lake.
What month do you normally start doing that?
Usually, actually, Jerry helps out quite a bit. When he's out in his pontoon, he can kind of sense when the weeds are getting to that time. He knows when we can start cutting, so he'll kind of let us know. It's usually middle of June, a little bit before the 4th. Depends on how fast the water warms up. If you get a really warm spring, it may be sooner, but it's usually that 3rd week in June. And then we go till Labor Day, and that's usually when the boating traffic kind of dies down, and then we just call it a year then.
All right. Need anything else from us
I
on this
received my
topic?
direction. I am good to go.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Let's move on to staff updates, and we'll start with Karen.
Thank you, Mayor Bain and council members. I don't have any updates this evening.
Dan?
Mayor, members of the council, last Thursday, I attended the Real Estate Journal Awards, and unfortunately, I do not have the City of the Year statue in front of me. Apple Valley did win this year's City of the Year award. But I do want to mention that it was still great exposure for the city. As you walked in, they had a big banner display. Our logo was on that display. It was on the table setting displays. And then every attendee got one of these big Real Estate Journal Awards books that had all the projects, all of the finalists listed in it. So approximately 900 developers, bankers, site selectors, pretty much anybody in the development community and building management community in the Twin Cities has one of these now. So we got some great exposure in the development community as a result of that. Hopefully next year we reapply and, can actually take home the award. But it was great to attend, great to meet a lot of people in the development community and have our name announced as a finalist in front of the entire panel. So it's proof that the policy work that the EDA and council is doing in terms of development and planning commission does bear fruit in the development community. It's a result of that work that we got to become a finalist. So it's kind of a kudos for all that policy work that we've been going through the last 3 or 4 years. So that's my update.
Well done, Dan. Thanks for representing us. Very good. Abby?
Thank you, Mayor Bain, members of the council. Just a little first quarter feedback or analysis that we've done. We have had a slight increase in our building permit activity this year compared to last year. However, it's only about 25% when comparing that to 2021. We're about the same as where we were in 2021. So it's hard to tell exactly where we'll be heading through this next construction year. I will say, and this might just be because of our staffing conditions last year, we have an over 100% increase in our planning and zoning applications. I don't know if that's because we had a different staffing challenges early last year. I would assume that's part of it, but we are still up significantly from 2021 as well. Just want to let you know the city has received Arts in the Park vendor applications. We have filled all of our 60 vendor slots. Over 50% of our vendors are new vendors, with about 50% of our vendors being handmade, really trying to put those arts back in that Arts in the Park. We still have a little bit of flexibility with food vendors. We're trying to slot in a couple more because we had some challenges in the past years with just food vendors running out. There's pretty high demand for people wanting to come to the park, have their dinner, do the whole thing. And then just also some flexibility for those maybe one-off circumstances where there might be a community endeavor that's happening, or a youth organization, civic organization that wants a booth that one night. We will be able to accommodate those one-off spin-offs. This is probably the first year, though, that we won't keep accepting vendor applications through the season, because we're pretty consistently seeing that the vendors are coming, they're staying, and it's only kind of giving a false hope to other vendors that kind of keep applying during that process. And then lastly, I just want to say before we meet again, I'll have reached my 1-year mark with the city of Forest Lake. And I can actually say the city of Forest Lake this time without slipping in another Washington County name. So I just want to thank you for letting me serve the council and this community. And I look forward to continuing on in the success that we're building.
Excellent. Congratulations on 1 year.
Thank you.
Patrick?
We just continue to monitor what's going on in the legislature to see they should be winding up their business fairly soon. We still have nothing more than that to report. So when we do, we will let you know. Other than that, I have no other report.
Thank you, Patrick. Amanda?
Thank you, Mayor Council. Nothing but available for questions.
Thank you. Dave?
No updates.
Brian?
Mayor, City Council, just let you guys know load restrictions came off this morning, so 2023 construction season has officially or finally arrived, even though the weather doesn't make it feel like it. But so things will certainly pick up. I'll give you more construction updates as things keep evolving, but the lift station project plans on starting the rest of the project starting the week of May 8th. So, and then we'll have some pre-cons for the seal coat and the other street project and bring that information back to you when it's available.
Very good. Thank you. Chief Peterson?
No updates from me tonight.
Chief Newman?
No updates.
All right. And Kevin?
No updates, but available for questions.
I call you Finance Chief. You don't get to Chief, and then Kevin. I want to call you Finance Chief. All right. Councilmember Roberts?
I have no updates, other than I did, as I mentioned, attended the Planning Commission meeting, which was a great meeting. I do have a couple questions, though, just to kind of an update on maybe the street sweeping and pothole and that process has begun. I've had some questions on that. And
First round of street sweeping got completed today, and so then next week we'll start the second sweeper, the enhanced portion of it, where we track the weight and the zones that we sweep. So all the curbed areas have been swept once already. Yep.
I was just, are streets extra messy this year? I feel like there's just extra debris. Is that symptom of winter? Is it always like this? It just feels like there's extra.
Potholes, extra potholes, and then just by us scraping the roads too, you're flaking more stuff off the top of the road too, so you just kind of scraping the top layer of the road off. But yeah, it was they picked up a lot of debris that first ride around, so.
I guess some of that may also just be residents, doing their own shoveling and snow removal, and it just creates, it's just disruptive, creates a mess, so.
Yep.
And then, did you mention potholes?
Yep,
Also-
potholes, we're still going to North St. Paul every day to get 4 ton, and if we get enough time to get another load and keep it warm at the shop, for the next day. But now with Ryan said, with road restrictions off, commercial asphalt should open relatively soon once they start seeing contractors wanting to do roads, so that'll speed it up much more. Then we can usually get up to 20 ton a day just by having it that much closer, so it's just slow and painful right now, but it's as fast as we can go, so.
Right, thanks. Councilmember Valento.
Nothing from me tonight.
All right, Councilmember Husnick.
I have no updates either tonight. Thanks.
Councilmember Erickson.
No updates tonight.
All right. Just a quick update for me. I've, have a couple of, we have some open appointments yet to do. And we had a discussion in our last workshop about, gosh, we really have a need to get the new park commission seated. And I agree. And in just consideration and conversation with we have 2 previous members that are still interested in serving, and having conversations with them, having conversations with some prospective members. I've kind of come to the conclusion that we need to get through at least the council level May conversation and workshop on just overall park plan and funding. As I hear in particular new park members being interested, there's a lot of great enthusiasm, there's a lot of great ideas, but I think what we owe it to all of those commission members is some financial plan, or at least some idea as to our appetite for a financial plan. And we aren't going to know that and aren't going to give a strong sense of that until we've seen that park plan come into the budget. And much like we took the approach of streets, we're not going to know specifically which park projects are going to be tackled when, but more of a financial picture of our appetite to support some broader park funding. Because as it relates specifically to the park commission, and hearing feedback of past commission members, part of the challenge has been council, there's been a disconnect between ideas being generated, what they want to do, and council's ability to fund. And I feel like we're at a spot of the 10-year plan coming together where we can at least give some high-level guidance as to, yes, for the next 2 to 3, 4 years, whatever that might be, you're probably living with just park dedication dollars, or perhaps when we see that plan, we, come together, decide, we actually need to do some additional general fund funding or some additional source of revenue that's going to provide more. Because I think that's really just going to help them set expectations as to pace and scope of work. Without that, there's just this question on this constant kind of back and forth of what do we want for parks? They come up with big ideas. We've now had 2 park boards, a park board and a park commission, that have essentially created large plans that council hasn't had an appetite to fund. And we've now seen this pendulum swing twice, and now that we're so close to having that 10-year plan, not to say that we're going to have the master, all of the funding pieced, but I think at least having the conversation of what does the near-term financial future look like for park funding, and what's our commitment for council to do that, I think we're just starting off on just poor expectations again. Are we working in, current sources of revenue, or are we looking to expand those sources of revenue in the near term? And I think the good news is we have community members who are interested in serving. They just want to know what are they working with? and they're happy to do either option, but either option is a really different experience. And if we were, you know, a year away from having, you know, this 10-year plan, including parks, I'd say we've got to have a commission seated. But given that near-term nature, I've invited both of the past members to come to that workshop, to be participants, to kind of hear what council's working with. And then I think we should consider taking feedback from that and at least being able to have a conversation with those prospective members on this is what the next couple of years is likely to look like, and then seat that commission in June. That's my thought. I think we owe it to them, and council has not shown their cards, if you will, of, again, what is the appetite? And we haven't done that because we haven't known. Just like up until, you know, just last month, we didn't have a great picture of what does that 10-year street plan look like. We're getting close to having that 10-year park plan, how all the pieces fit together. There's still a lot of work to be done, but at least we'll be able to kind of understand for at least the next couple of years, what does the scope of work look like for them? In the meantime, I hear, and you know, there's a lot of, you know, day-to-day, there's details related to Fenway, there's details with our relationship with FLA. Those seem to be going okay. Could always use a little bit more guidance, but we're doing okay. The next big step that needs to be taken is really what are the next steps related to the 10-year plan? And the first thing that new commission is going to do is how much money do we have to work with? And I think we owe them at least a high-level answer to that. Just wanted an update, because I know it's kind of been this open question on what are we going to do.
So, and that makes complete sense, as long as those that have reached out that have interest have been notified and know what the plan is.
Yeah, and I have had this conversation, I haven't had it with every single applicant, but I've had it with at least, so there's 2 applicants that are a little further along in the process, and then the 2 that had been seated. That was just more of a conversation of, here's what I'm thinking, what are your thoughts? And there was overall consensus of, yeah, this has been a challenge of serving, and if we have some better information in the near term, then let's hold off. And again, it's not a 3-6 month delay, it's really let's get to June and reconsider with a little bit more information.
There's plenty of good ideas out there, we just gotta find them.
There's a ton, and you know, I think about the gentleman who came to council who, you know, had this great idea about, you know, the 97 trail, and what I don't want to do for anybody is to leave a false expectation. Or if you've just joined the commission and work really hard, we can make that happen. There's some of that certainly can happen, and I love that spirit, but we also need to, at the end of the day, have a commitment to some level of funding, and those are a lot of conversations we have still to have. Also, I think that thought and getting them activated at that time does still allow for some near-term input for 2024 budget, allows for some near-term input as we are making additional updates to the 10-year plan. It gives council at least our first opportunity to provide some initial thoughts. Yeah, please.
Can I just ask a question? So I understand that the park will be at our next workshop, that issue, and that is, again, be more specific to dollars and not so much projects. Is that kind of how you're thinking? The reason I'm asking is that, you know, before my time on the council, my understanding is that the Belts Park, it was quite a ways down the road, and then that commission, you know, we had some people resign. So I'm just wondering if that's going to be part of the conversation. If not, maybe a quick update now.
Most of it will be dollars, but we will talk about Belts Park, because that's a major portion of the dollars coming, so we will have to talk about a Belts Park and what that will do to the funds.
And if I might add, we will also just talk about, quite a number of our parks are just past due. And so kind of seeing what that schedule is, a lot of the equipment replacement, those are very set schedules that were past due. So we probably will share some of that information with you as well.
This will have more project than the streets did.
And I think the Belts Park question is actually a good example of just, you know, the cost of doing a significant park overhaul, and just an example of how, you know, in our current funding source, and this can kind of be laid out in the worksheet or in the workshop, of how, you know, those funds trickle in today through those park dedication fees, and then we've got these large projects, and whether that's Belts Park or a park somewhere else, it's kind of the nature of how that fund operates under our existing plan, and one of the questions for us is, are we comfortable with that? Is that our long-term plan? It could be. Or is there a need for us to do some more general fund funding of that to help speed things along? And I think that's part of what we just need to wrestle with. So. And then ultimately see overall impact. I mean, you know, the general fund funding, either bond or through levy, and that's part of, I think, what we need to tackle.
We're still meeting Thursday, right?
Any other questions related to that? Patrick, anything else for
No.
us related to that? All right, I don't have any other updates. That is the end of our planned agenda this evening. Council, happy to entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signal by saying aye. Aye. Oppose? And we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.